What if I told you that the reality you're experiencing right now is just one version of an infinite number of possibilities? And what if I told you that you could shift into an entirely new reality, not in years, not in months, but instantly? I know, it sounds impossible, maybe even ridiculous. But stay with me, because everything you've been taught about reality, about time, about cause and effect, about the way life is supposed to work, is based on a flawed and outdated understanding of how reality actually functions. And by the time you finish this audiobook, you will see the world and yourself in an entirely different way. Let's start with the biggest myth of all, the idea that reality is fixed, external, and independent of you. We've been conditioned to believe that reality is like a giant machine operating under strict, unchangeable laws. That what happens to us is based on external forces, our circumstances, our past, the economy, the government, luck, fate, or even the way the universe decides to unfold. We're told that change takes time, that transformation requires years of effort, and that certain things in life are just the way they are. But modern quantum physics, neuroscience, and psychology tell a very different story. Physicists have known for decades that the universe isn't as solid as it seems. In fact, at a fundamental level, everything we see, touch, and experience is made up of energy and information, constantly shifting and responding to observation. This is not science fiction. This is quantum mechanics. Take the famous double-slit experiment, for example. Scientists discovered that particles behave differently depending on whether or not they are being observed. When unobserved, they exist in a state of pure potential, as waves of infinite possibilities. The moment they are measured, they collapse into a specific outcome, as if reality itself is waiting for consciousness to decide what is real. Think about that for a moment. Reality doesn't just exist out there, separate from you. It responds to you. It shapes itself based on your awareness, your focus, and your expectations. Now let's go even deeper. Your brain is a reality-generating machine. Your brain isn't just interpreting reality, it's creating it. Neuroscientists have proven that what we see, hear, and experience isn't an objective representation of the world, but a projection of our brain's best guess about what's happening. Your eyes don't actually see the world. They take in raw data, light waves, and your brain processes that data to create a mental image. And guess what? Your beliefs, memories, and subconscious programming heavily influence what your brain perceives as reality. Ever noticed how, when you're thinking about buying a new car, you suddenly start seeing that exact car everywhere? That's called the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, or frequency illusion. Your brain literally filters reality based on what you focus on, making certain things appear more frequently, even though they were there all along. Now apply that same principle to your entire life. If your brain is wired to see struggle, obstacles, and limitations, that's the reality it will generate for you. If your brain is wired to expect opportunities, breakthroughs, and effortless success, that's the reality it will create. This isn't just mindset talk. This is neuroscience. The reticular activating system, RAS, in your brain acts as a filter, determining which information gets through to your conscious mind. And that filter is shaped by what you consistently believe, focus on, and emotionally engage with. In other words, change your focus, change your reality. The power of instant shifts. So here's the big question. If reality is fluid, if it responds to consciousness, and if your brain is literally generating your experience of the world, then why wouldn't it be possible to shift your reality instantly? The answer is, it is possible. You've just been conditioned to believe it isn't. Every major breakthrough in life, whether it's a sudden insight, a life-changing decision, or a moment of pure clarity, happens in an instant. Change doesn't take time. What takes time is getting to the moment where you allow yourself to shift. Reality shifts the moment you let go of an old identity and step into a new one. Decide on a deep level that you are done with the old version of reality. Align your focus, emotions, and expectations with the version of reality you want. The problem is, most people try to change their external circumstances without shifting their internal state. But reality doesn't work that way. Change happens inside first. Once your internal state shifts, your external world follows, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, but always inevitably. What to expect from this audiobook? This audiobook isn't about positive thinking or abstract spiritual ideas. It's about practical, actionable principles backed by science, psychology, and real-world experience. Here's what you're going to discover: how to identify and break free from hidden subconscious patterns that keep you stuck in your current reality, the neuroscience behind belief systems, and how to rewire yours to create instant, lasting shifts, why time is an illusion, and how to collapse timelines to experience results faster than you ever thought possible, the mechanics of quantum reality, and how to use them to manifest with precision and consistency, how to shift your identity at the deepest level so that change becomes effortless. Most importantly, by the end of this journey, you won't just believe that reality shifts instantly. You will experience it for yourself. One last question. Right now, in this very moment, you are standing at the edge of an entirely new version of reality. One where you are no longer a passive participant, but the active creator of your world. So the only question left is, are you ready to step into it? Chapter 1. The science of reality shifts reality. We often think of it as something fixed, something absolute, a solid foundation on which we build our understanding of life. But what if that foundation wasn't as stable as we've been led to believe? What if at any moment, the very fabric of what we call reality could shift? Not in some abstract, theoretical way, but in a way that alters our personal experiences, our memories, and even the physical world around us. This isn't the realm of fantasy or science fiction. It's something that scientists, philosophers, and everyday people have been grappling with for years. And as we venture into the world of instant reality shifts, we begin to see that what we once thought was impossible might just be our everyday truth. To truly grasp this, we need to start at the foundation of what reality is, or more accurately, what we think it is. If you ask a scientist, they'll tell you that reality is governed by laws of physics, rules that dictate how everything works, from the motion of planets to the neurons firing in your brain. But if you ask a philosopher, they might tell you that reality is shaped by perception, that what we consider real is just a construct of our minds. And if you ask someone who has had a profound, life-changing experience, a near-death encounter, an unexplained shift in memory, or an event that defies logical explanation, they might tell you that reality is something far more fluid than we ever imagined. The question is, who is right? The answer may surprise you: quantum mechanics and the illusion of a stable reality. For centuries, classical physics ruled our understanding of the universe. Newton's laws made sense of motion, gravity, and force. The physical world operated like a well-oiled machine, predictable, logical, measurable. But then came quantum mechanics, a field of science that turned everything we thought we knew about reality on its head. Suddenly, reality was no longer fixed. Particles could exist in two places at once. Observing something could change its outcome. A particle could be here, and then, without any apparent cause, be over there. This isn't speculation. It's science, backed by decades of experiments. The most famous of these experiments, the double-slit experiment, revealed something extraordinary. Scientists found that tiny particles, like electrons, behaved differently when they were observed. When left alone, they acted like waves, spreading out and passing through both slits at once. But the moment they were measured, when someone was watching, they suddenly chose a definite path, behaving like solid particles. This means that the mere act of observing something changes reality itself. What does this say about our everyday lives? Could it mean that reality isn't something happening to us, but something we are shaping simply by experiencing it? The Mandela effect and collective reality shifts. If reality can shift at the quantum level, what about on a human level? You may have heard of the Mandela effect, a phenomenon where large groups of people remember something differently from how it supposedly happened. The name comes from the widespread belief that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s, even though he was later released and became president of South Africa. But it doesn't stop there. People remember movie quotes incorrectly, except thousands of people remember them the same wrong way. Entire brand names, book titles, and even geography seem to change overnight. Skeptics argue that these are just memory errors, but the sheer scale of these misremembered events suggests something deeper. Could we be slipping between parallel versions of reality without realizing it? Could our memories be remnants of a past timeline, one that no longer exists? Some believe that small changes in the fabric of reality occur all the time, unnoticed except for tiny inconsistencies, ones that show up in pop culture, history, and even personal experiences. If these shifts are happening on a large scale, what does that say about the nature of our world? Parallel universes and the multiverse. Theory. One of the most intriguing explanations for reality shifts comes from the multiverse theory. Scientists have long theorized that our universe is just one of many, an infinite sea of parallel realities where every possible outcome exists. Some physicists, like those working in string theory and quantum physics, suggest that these universes may sometimes bump into one another, causing slight overlaps or shifts in reality. Imagine a world where you took a different job, married someone else, or made a different choice at a crucial moment. Now imagine that world is just as real as this one, existing alongside it. If these realities are running parallel, could something cause us to shift between them? Some researchers believe this could explain déjà vu, strange coincidences, or even memories that don't align with the world we live in now. If reality is fluid enough to allow for these shifts, then it means nothing is truly fixed, not even the present moment. The role of consciousness in shaping reality beyond the science, beyond the theories. One of the most important aspects of reality shifting is consciousness itself. Everything we experience is filtered through our awareness. Every sight, sound, thought, and emotion is part of a deeply personal perception of reality. But what if consciousness doesn't just observe reality? What if it actively creates it? This idea isn't new. Ancient spiritual traditions have long taught that reality is shaped by the mind, that thoughts have power, and that what we focus on expands. Science is beginning to back this up. Studies in neuroscience show that the brain can't always tell the difference between real experiences and imagined ones. Athletes who visualize themselves practicing a skill can improve their performance almost as much as those who physically train. Placebos, fake treatments with no active ingredients, can heal illnesses simply because people believe they are receiving real medicine. If our minds can shape our bodies and performance, could they also shape the reality around us? This leads to one of the most powerful realizations. We may have more control over reality than we think. If shifting reality is as simple as changing perception, intention, or focus, then what else is possible? Could we learn to shift realities consciously, rather than by accident? Could we step into the versions of reality where our best lives exist? Conclusion: the shifting nature of what we call real. As we unravel the science behind reality shifts, one thing becomes clear. Reality isn't as stable as we once believed. Quantum mechanics tells us that observation changes reality. The Mandela effect suggests that history may not be as fixed as we assume. The multiverse theory hints that countless versions of our world exist simultaneously, and consciousness itself appears to be a powerful force in shaping what we experience. This isn't just theoretical, it's deeply personal. If reality is malleable, then our lives are not set in stone. The barriers we think exist, whether personal, societal, or even physical, may be more fluid than we've ever imagined. And if reality can shift in an instant, then so can we. In the next chapter, we'll explore how perception and the power of the mind play a crucial role in these shifts. We'll dive into how beliefs shape experience, how to rewire the brain for transformation, and how to start taking control of our reality shifts instead of merely reacting to them. Because if reality shifts instantly, the question isn't if you can change your world. The question is, how will you choose to? Chapter 2: Perception and the Power of the Mind. If reality is not as fixed as we once believed, then what force determines the way we experience it? The answer, surprisingly, is something deeply personal, yet profoundly underestimated: perception. Our perception acts as a lens through which we interpret the world, shaping not only our thoughts and emotions, but also the very structure of reality itself. We often assume that what we see, hear, and feel is an objective truth, yet the truth is far more complex. Reality is filtered through layers of beliefs, subconscious conditioning, and mental biases that shape every moment of our experience. Two people can stand in the same place, witness the same event, and yet walk away with completely different understandings of what occurred. One may see opportunity, while the other perceives disaster. One may find joy in a moment, while another drowns in fear and uncertainty. The external world remains unchanged, yet their internal realities diverge so drastically that they might as well be living in separate universes. This is not an accident. It is the direct result of perception, and understanding this single fact gives us an extraordinary power: the ability to shift reality by shifting our minds. From the moment we are born, our brains begin constructing a model of the world based on experience. Every word we hear, every interaction we observe, every reward or punishment we receive starts to shape the way we view existence. These perceptions form the invisible rules by which we live. If we are taught that life is a struggle, we will find endless proof that supports this belief. If we are told that success is reserved for a select few, we will unknowingly reject opportunities that contradict that narrative. The brain, in its attempt to create order and predictability, becomes a pattern-seeking machine, filtering reality to match what we already believe to be true. This is why people who are convinced the world is against them will continually encounter situations that reinforce that belief, while those who expect abundance and joy seem to attract them effortlessly. The difference is not in the external world, but in the internal lens through which it is perceived. One of the most fascinating aspects of perception is that it is not static. The human brain has an incredible ability to rewire itself, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. For much of history, scientists believed that the brain was fixed after childhood, but modern research has proven otherwise. Our thoughts, habits, and beliefs are not set in stone. They can be reshaped at any time. This means that if our current perception of reality is not serving us, we have the power to change it. When we introduce new ways of thinking, focus on different possibilities, and consciously shift our attention, we create new neural pathways that support a different version of reality. This is not wishful thinking. It is neuroscience. The more we engage in a particular thought pattern, the stronger that neural connection becomes, and over time, it reshapes the way we experience life itself. One of the most striking demonstrations of how perception shapes reality is found in the placebo effect. In study after study, patients who believe they are receiving real medicine experience actual physiological changes, even when they have only been given a sugar pill. Their pain diminishes, their symptoms improve, and in some cases, their bodies heal entirely without any active medical intervention. This effect is so powerful that new pharmaceutical drugs must be tested against placebos to prove their effectiveness. But the placebo effect is not limited to medicine. It extends into every aspect of life. Athletes who visualize their training sessions see real improvements in muscle strength. Students who believe they are naturally gifted perform better than those who doubt their abilities, regardless of actual skill levels. The mind does not simply observe reality, it actively creates it. If belief alone can heal the body, strengthen performance, and increase intelligence, then what else is possible? What if the reality we live in is merely a reflection of the expectations we hold? Another powerful force that shapes perception is the reticular activating system, RAS, a network of neurons in the brainstem that acts as a filter for incoming information. Every second, our senses take in an overwhelming amount of data, yet we only become aware of a fraction of it. The RAS determines what gets our attention and what fades into the background, based on what our brain deems important. This is why when you buy a new car, you suddenly start seeing that model everywhere, even though those cars were always there. Your brain has simply been programmed to notice them. Now imagine if this same mechanism is at work in every aspect of your life. If you believe that opportunities are scarce, your RAS will filter reality in a way that confirms that belief, making you overlook chances that could change your life. But if you shift your focus to abundance, your brain will begin identifying pathways to success that were invisible before. The world does not change, you do. And as your perception shifts, so does your experience of reality. The implications of this are profound. If our perception dictates our experience, then we are never truly trapped in any situation. We are only trapped in a particular way of seeing that situation. What if we started viewing challenges as stepping stones instead of roadblocks? What if failures were not seen as defeats, but as necessary adjustments on the path to success? The moment we redefine the way we perceive an event, the emotional and psychological impact of that event changes as well. A setback that once seemed devastating can suddenly be seen as a redirection towards something better. A loss that once felt unbearable can be recognized as the space needed for something greater to enter. This is not about ignoring reality. It is about engaging with it in a new way, one that empowers rather than limits us. Practical steps for shifting perception, and in turn, shifting reality, begin with awareness. The first step is to question the assumptions you have about life. How many of your beliefs are inherited rather than consciously chosen? How often do you assume something is true simply because you have always believed it? By challenging these assumptions, you create an opening for new possibilities. The second step is to consciously reprogram your RAS by setting clear intentions for what you want to see. If you decide that success, love, and opportunity are abundant, your brain will start tuning into evidence that supports that reality. The third step is to use mental rehearsal, a technique where you vividly imagine the reality you want, engaging all your senses. Studies have shown that when the brain visualizes an experience in detail, it activates the same neural pathways as actually living that experience, effectively training the mind and body for success. The fourth step is to rewrite your internal narrative by changing the stories you tell yourself. If your self-talk is filled with limitations, rewrite it with affirmations that align with the reality you want to create. And finally, take action that aligns with your new perception. Small shifts in behavior reinforce the new reality and make it solid. As we deepen our understanding of how perception shapes reality, it becomes clear that we are not passive observers of life. We are active participants. The mind does not simply reflect reality, it creates it. interprets it, and shapes it in ways we are only beginning to understand. If perception is fluid, then so is the world we experience. And if we can shift perception, we can shift reality itself. Chapter 3: Consciousness, Energy, and the Fabric of Reality. If perception shapes experience and the mind actively creates reality, then what lies beneath it all? What is the underlying force that connects our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs to the physical world? The answer is something both ancient and cutting edge: energy. Everything we see, touch, and interact with is made up of energy vibrating at different frequencies. This is not just spiritual philosophy, but quantum physics, which has revealed that at the smallest levels of existence, reality is not as solid as it appears. What we call matter is composed of subatomic particles, vibrating fields of energy that shift and change based on observation and intention. Consciousness, rather than being a passive byproduct of the brain, appears to be an active force that interacts with the very fabric of reality itself. For centuries, Eastern philosophies have taught that the universe is composed of energy, from the chai of Chinese medicine to the prana of yogic traditions. These traditions emphasize that when our energy is aligned, life flows effortlessly. But when it is disrupted, we experience struggle, disease, and stagnation. Modern science is now catching up to this understanding, revealing that our thoughts and emotions are not just abstract experiences, but measurable energetic frequencies that influence the world around us. When we feel joy, gratitude, or love, our bodies emit a coherent electromagnetic frequency that resonates at a higher vibration. When we are stuck in fear, anger, or self-doubt, our frequency lowers, creating a field of resistance that blocks us from accessing opportunities, creativity, and synchronicities. The implications of this are profound. The reality we experience is a reflection of the energy we emit. One of the most groundbreaking discoveries in quantum physics is the observer effect, which shows that the act of observation itself influences the behavior of particles. In classic experiments, scientists found that when they observed electrons, the electrons behaved differently than when they were not being observed. This suggests that consciousness, our awareness, attention, and intention, directly interacts with the physical world in ways we do not fully understand. This aligns perfectly with what mystics and spiritual teachers have been saying for centuries. Reality responds to awareness. When we focus on something with intention and emotion, we are not just passively noticing it, we are actively influencing it, shaping how it unfolds. If consciousness interacts with energy, then the key to shifting reality instantly is learning to master our internal energy state. Every thought we think and every emotion we feel generates a frequency, which then interacts with the field of possibilities around us. When we operate from scarcity, fear, or self-doubt, we send out chaotic signals that attract more of the same. But when we align with confidence, gratitude, and clarity, we synchronize with a reality that reflects those states back to us. This is why people who consistently practice visualization, meditation, and intention setting often experience what seem like miracles, unexpected opportunities, synchronicities, and events that align perfectly with their desires. The universe is not responding to random luck. It is responding to the energy we are putting out. One of the most compelling demonstrations of this comes from scientific studies on the power of intention. Researchers have found that focused thought can alter physical systems in measurable ways. In experiments conducted by the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research (PEAR) lab, subjects were able to influence random number generators using only their minds, shifting statistical outcomes beyond what chance would predict. Other studies have shown that human consciousness can impact the structure of water molecules, plant growth, and even the healing process in other people. If thought alone can affect physical matter, then what does this mean for our ability to shape the circumstances of our own lives? The connection between consciousness and energy also explains why some people seem to effortlessly manifest success, while others struggle despite working hard. It is not simply about action. It is about the energetic alignment behind the action. Someone who takes inspired action, who moves forward with belief, clarity, and emotional alignment, will generate different results than someone who acts from a place of desperation, doubt, or frustration. The same action taken from two different energy states will lead to entirely different outcomes, because the universe does not just respond to what we do. It responds to who we are being while we do it. This is why inner work, clearing subconscious blocks, healing old emotional wounds, and shifting deep-seated beliefs is so crucial. Until our internal energy aligns with what we desire, external effort alone will only take us so far. If consciousness, energy, and reality are intertwined, then how do we practically apply this knowledge to shift our experience in a tangible way? The first step is to become aware of your dominant energetic state. Are you operating from a place of stress, resistance, or frustration? Or are you moving through life with a sense of ease, trust, and openness? Your emotional baseline, the energy you most frequently embody, is shaping your reality whether you realize it or not. The second step is to consciously shift your frequency by changing your thoughts, emotions, and physiological state. Practices like deep breathing, meditation, and gratitude exercises instantly raise your energetic vibration, making you more receptive to positive experiences. The third step is to set clear and powerful intentions, focusing your awareness on what you want rather than what you fear. Visualization, scripting, and affirmations are not just mental exercises. They are energetic broadcasts that shape how reality responds to you. Another key practice is learning to trust the flow of life. Many people block their own manifestations because they are constantly in a state of mental resistance, doubting whether things will work out or trying to control every detail. But reality is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be aligned with. The more we trust, surrender, and allow, the more easily things fall into place. This does not mean inaction. It means taking inspired action while being open to unexpected pathways. Some of the greatest opportunities and breakthroughs come from directions we could never have anticipated. When we cling too tightly to a specific outcome, we often block ourselves from receiving something even better. But when we remain energetically open, we allow reality to shift in ways beyond what we could have planned. The most empowering realization of all is that you are not separate from the energy of the universe. You are it. The same intelligence that orchestrates galaxies, births stars, and keeps your heart beating is flowing through you at all times. When you understand that your consciousness is not just an observer of reality, but a co-creator of it, everything changes. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start recognizing your role as an active participant in the unfolding of your life. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every intention you hold is shaping reality in ways you may not yet fully see. But the more you align with the truth of your power, the more undeniable your ability to shift reality becomes. As we move forward, we will explore how this understanding connects to the multidimensional nature of existence. Are there parallel realities? Can we shift between timelines? And how does the collective consciousness influence the reality we experience? These are not just abstract ideas. They hold practical implications for how we navigate life, make choices, and shape our destiny. Because if reality shifts instantly, then the greatest question of all is, what reality are you choosing to step into next? Chapter 4: Parallel Realities and Timeline Shifts. If consciousness shapes energy and energy shapes reality, then the next logical question is, how many realities exist? For most of human history, we have been conditioned to believe in one fixed reality, a single unchanging timeline where life unfolds in a linear fashion, one moment following another, in a predetermined sequence. But what if this assumption is entirely false? What if, instead of living in a single reality, we are constantly shifting through an infinite number of parallel realities, each one slightly or drastically different from the last? This is not just science fiction or spiritual speculation. Quantum physics, neurology, and metaphysics are beginning to reveal that reality is far more fluid than we ever imagined. And once we grasp this, we gain access to one of the most powerful truths of all. We are not stuck in a single version of life. At any moment, we can step into a completely different timeline. Modern physics has introduced us to the many worlds interpretation, a theory suggesting that every possible outcome of a decision exists simultaneously in parallel timelines. When we make a choice, whether small or monumental, we are not just selecting an option, but rather activating a version of reality where that choice leads to a particular outcome. The version of you that took the job exists, as does the version that didn't. The version of you that pursued a dream is playing out in one timeline, while another version lives in hesitation. These realities coexist, each as real as the next, but the one you experience is determined by your consciousness and alignment. This aligns eerily with ancient spiritual traditions, which have long taught that life is a grand illusion, a holographic projection shifting according to our vibrational frequency, thoughts, and expectations. But if infinite realities exist, why do we seem stuck in just one? The answer lies in perception and belief. If we have been conditioned to believe that reality is rigid and unchangeable, our minds will filter out any evidence to the contrary. But the moment we open ourselves to the possibility that we are shifting through realities every second, whether we realize it or not, we start to witness the subtle and sometimes drastic ways in which our world changes based on our internal state. Consider those moments when life seems to glitch, when things feel out of place, when events align too perfectly, or when memories don't quite match external reality. These are not mere coincidences. They are glimpses into the fluid, ever-shifting nature of existence. One of the most compelling examples of parallel realities in action is the Mandela effect, a phenomenon where large groups of people remember an event or detail differently from how it officially occurred. Some recall a famous movie line that never existed. Others swear they experienced an event that historical records deny. And many report feeling like certain aspects of the world have inexplicably changed overnight. Skeptics dismiss this as collective false memory. But what if these occurrences are actually evidence that we are slipping between realities all the time? If we exist within a multiverse of infinite timelines, then what we call memory errors might simply be remnants of past realities we once inhabited, but have since shifted away from. But here is where it gets even more fascinating. We are not passive travelers in this multiverse. We are active navigators. The reality we experience at any given moment is a direct result of the vibrational frequency we are emitting. When we feel stuck, it is not because external circumstances are immovable, but because our thoughts, emotions, and actions are continuously reinforcing the same timeline. But when we shift our internal state, we activate an entirely different version of reality. People who have undergone sudden personal transformations, whether healing from illness, escaping financial hardship, or experiencing an unexpected breakthrough, are not simply improving their situation. They are literally shifting into a timeline where that new reality exists. They have stepped out of one version of themselves and into another. One of the most powerful ways to consciously shift timelines is to embody the energy of the reality you want to experience before it physically manifests. This is not about pretending or faking it till you make it. It is about aligning your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors with the version of yourself that already exists in that desired timeline. If you want to step into a reality of abundance, you must begin vibrating at the frequency of someone who is abundant, not someone who is hoping for abundance, but someone who is already living it. If you want to shift into a timeline where you are healthier, more confident, or more successful, you must start thinking, feeling, and acting as that version of yourself now. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing a new one. And when this shift happens internally, the external world will rearrange itself to match the new frequency. But how do we make this tangible? The first step is radical self-awareness. Start noticing the reality you are currently in, the repeating patterns, the emotional states you default to, the types of experiences that seem to follow you. These are indicators of the timeline you are presently aligned with. If you constantly encounter struggle, it is not because struggle is inevitable. It is because, consciously or unconsciously, you are tuned into a version of reality where struggle is the dominant theme. The second step is to interrupt the cycle by introducing new energy, new beliefs, and new actions into your daily life. Even small shifts, changing your morning routine, adopting a new thought pattern, stepping outside your comfort zone, can create ripple effects that dislodge you from one timeline and shift you into another. The third step is intention and visualization. Scientists have found that when we vividly imagine a scenario, our brain fires neurons as if the event is actually happening. This means that visualization is not just daydreaming. It is literally programming the brain to expect, and therefore create, a new reality. When done with deep emotion and belief, this process can accelerate a timeline shift dramatically. The final step is taking action from the new identity, not the old one. Every choice we make is an opportunity to anchor ourselves in a different version of reality. The way we speak, the way we respond to challenges, the way we carry ourselves, each of these is a signal to the universe about which timeline we are choosing. The greatest mistake people make when trying to shift their reality is waiting for external proof before they believe the shift is real. But reality does not work that way. The shift must happen internally first, and only then does the outer world reflect it back. If you look in a mirror and expect your reflection to smile before you do, you will be waiting forever. You must first change your expression, and then the reflection will follow. Reality works the same way. If parallel realities are real, and all evidence suggests that they are, then the most important question you can ask yourself is, which timeline am I choosing to align with? Are you reinforcing the past or stepping into the infinite possibilities of the present? Are you unconsciously repeating old patterns, or are you actively designing your life? The ability to shift timelines is not reserved for a select few. It is a natural part of existence. And as we move forward, we will explore the mechanics of quantum jumping, collective consciousness, and the deeper nature of time itself. Because when reality shifts instantly, the only limit is the one we place on our own perception. Chapter 5. The Mechanics of Quantum Jumping. If we are constantly shifting between parallel realities, why do so many people feel trapped in their current circumstances? Why does change seem slow, difficult, and unpredictable? The answer lies in how we interact with the quantum field, the unseen web of potential realities that surrounds us at all times. Unlike traditional goal setting or linear progress, quantum jumping is not about slowly working toward a future outcome. Instead, it is about making a leap in consciousness, an internal shift so profound that reality has no choice but to realign itself accordingly. This is not a vague, mystical concept. It is a process deeply rooted in the science of energy, vibration, and the observer effect. Once understood and applied correctly, quantum jumping allows for instant shifts into entirely new versions of life, where circumstances, opportunities, and even personal identity can change at a speed that defies conventional logic. To understand how quantum jumping works, we must first recognize that the universe is not a rigid structure, but a field of infinite possibilities. Every moment contains countless potential realities, and our consciousness acts as a selector mechanism, tuning into the frequency of a particular timeline. Most people unknowingly lock themselves into one version of reality by reinforcing the same thoughts, emotions, and behaviors every day. They believe that this is just how life is, and so the quantum field responds by making it so. But when we break free from this cycle, when we change our dominant vibration, we instantly shift to a different timeline where new possibilities exist. This is why some people experience dramatic, almost miraculous changes after a single breakthrough moment. Their energy shifts so profoundly that their external world must restructure itself to match their new state of being. One of the most famous experiments in quantum physics, the double-slit experiment, demonstrates how observation affects reality at the most fundamental level. When particles are observed, they behave as solid matter, but when they are not observed, they exist as a wave of infinite possibilities. This suggests that reality is fluid until consciousness interacts with it, meaning that what we expect, believe, and emotionally invest in directly determines the outcome we experience. If this applies at the microscopic level, then it applies to our larger reality as well. The act of expecting change, fully embodying it, and emotionally committing to a new identity is what triggers a quantum jump. But most people fail to do this because they remain attached to their past, skeptical of the unseen, or unwilling to surrender their old identity. A quantum jump is not about wishing for a better life. It is about embodying a different version of yourself so completely that reality must reflect it back to you. Imagine standing in front of a series of doors, each leading to a different version of your life. Some doors lead to struggle and limitations, while others open to abundance, joy, and fulfillment. The door you walk through is determined not by chance, but by who you believe you are in that moment. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you unconsciously align with a timeline where struggle exists. If you see yourself as someone who is lucky, opportunities begin to appear effortlessly. This is why transformation is less about external effort and more about identity shifting, changing the core assumptions about who you are and what is possible for you. One of the most powerful tools for quantum jumping is the reality bridge technique, which involves merging with the version of yourself that already exists in your desired timeline. This is not about creating something new. It is about aligning with what is already real in another version of reality. To do this, sit in a quiet space and visualize the version of yourself who has already achieved what you desire. See their posture, their confidence, the way they think, feel, and behave. Ask yourself, what choices does this version of me make? How do they approach challenges? What do they believe about themselves and the world? Then, as you go about your day, begin adopting these traits in real time. This simple yet profound practice accelerates your shift because the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between imagination and reality. By acting as if the shift has already happened, your external world reorganizes itself to confirm your new state of being. Another crucial aspect of quantum jumping is detachment from the past. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to shift timelines is that they remain emotionally tethered to their old story. They replay past failures, hold on to limiting beliefs, and define themselves by who they have been rather than who they are becoming. But the past is not a fixed determinant of the future. It is merely a collection of frequencies you once aligned with. The moment you fully release attachment to past versions of yourself, you create space for a new timeline to emerge. This is why profound shifts often happen when people undergo ego deaths, spiritual awakenings, or sudden life changes. These events disrupt the momentum of the old self, allowing a new reality to take its place. Quantum jumping also requires emotional coherence, meaning that your thoughts, emotions, and actions must be in alignment. Many people struggle with manifestation because their mind says, "I want this," but their emotions say, "I don't believe it's possible." This creates a conflict that cancels out the intended shift. The key is to generate the emotional state of already having what you desire. When you feel abundance, rather than longing for it, you shift into an abundant timeline. When you feel love, rather than seeking it, you attract experiences that match that frequency. This is why gratitude is such a powerful tool. It tricks the subconscious into believing that the desired outcome is already here, accelerating the shift into that reality. Another advanced technique for quantum jumping is timeline scripting, writing a detailed account of your life as if you have already made the shift. This is not just a journaling exercise. It is a command to the subconscious mind to reorganize reality accordingly. Describe your new reality in vivid detail, including emotions, interactions, and the way you move through life. Then, read it daily with full belief and immersion. The brain is designed to seek coherence between inner and outer reality. So if you repeatedly expose yourself to a new story, your subconscious will begin guiding you toward actions and opportunities that align with that version of reality. But perhaps the most critical factor in quantum jumping is trusting the shift. Many people block their own transformation because they remain fixated on whether the external world is changing fast enough. But reality does not shift when you doubt it. It shifts when you trust it so completely that questioning it is no longer necessary. Think of it like planting a seed. If you constantly dig it up to check if it's growing, you interfere with the process. The same principle applies to reality shifting. The moment you truly commit to a new identity without hesitation or second guessing is the moment the shift is complete. As we continue, we will explore the connection between time, memory, and the illusion of continuity. If reality shifts instantly, then is the past real? Or is it just a byproduct of our current frequency? And can we rewrite our own history to align with a new timeline? These are not just theoretical questions. They hold the key to unlocking true mastery over our ability to shape reality itself. Chapter 6. The Illusion of Time and the Power of the Present. Time is the greatest illusion of all. It is the invisible thread that weaves together our memories, our experiences, and our sense of self. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to believe in a linear progression of past, present, and future, as if life is unfolding on a single, unchangeable timeline. But what if this is nothing more than a mental construct? What if time is not something we move through, but something we create? And what if our attachment to the idea of time is the very thing keeping us trapped in repeating cycles of limitation? Science, spirituality, and personal experience all point to one undeniable truth. Time is malleable, and when we learn to break free from its illusion, we unlock the ability to shift into any reality we choose. Modern physics has already begun to dismantle the traditional view of time. Einstein's theory of relativity showed that time is not absolute. It bends and stretches based on velocity and gravity. Quantum mechanics goes even further, suggesting that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously in an infinite field of possibilities. In other words, there is no universal now. There are only infinite nows, each existing in parallel, waiting for our consciousness to tune into them. If this is true, then the past is not fixed, the future is not distant, and the present is the only point of true power. Yet despite this, most people live as if they are bound by time. They define themselves by their past experiences, mistakes, and limitations, believing that who they were yesterday determines who they can be today. They chase the future, always waiting for the right time to change, as if time itself will grant them permission. But what they fail to realize is that the past does not create the present. The present creates both the past and the future. Every moment, we are choosing which version of reality to align with, and that choice retroactively rewrites our history and reshapes our future. This is why people who undergo deep personal transformations often report that their past feels like a dream, because it quite literally shifts when they step into a new identity. The greatest barrier to reality shifting is attachment to past identity. When we believe our past defines us, we unconsciously drag old timelines into the present, recreating the same experiences over and over again. This is why many people feel stuck in repetitive cycles, whether in relationships, finances, or personal growth. They are not cursed, unlucky, or destined for struggle. They are simply carrying the energetic weight of old timelines into the now. But the moment we detach from the past, it loses its grip on us. And when we realize that the future is just an extension of our current state of being, we stop waiting and start creating. One of the most profound ways to shift reality is by collapsing time, the practice of pulling the desired future into the now. Most people believe that change must take time, that progress is gradual, and that certain things are years away from happening. But these beliefs are self-imposed limitations. In truth, everything you desire already exists in another version of reality, and the only thing preventing you from experiencing it is the belief that it is distant. When we collapse time, we step into the frequency of already having rather than waiting to have, and reality reorganizes itself to match that state of being. A powerful exercise for collapsing time is acting as if in the quantum field. This is not about pretending or faking confidence. It is about fully embodying the version of yourself that already exists in the timeline you wish to experience. Imagine that the shift has already happened. How do you think? How do you feel? What actions do you take differently? The moment you adopt the energetic signature of your desired reality, time bends and events begin unfolding in ways that defy logic. This is why people who make bold, identity-shifting decisions often experience instant synchronicities, opportunities, and breakthroughs. They have stepped into a new timeline where things happen rapidly rather than gradually. But to fully harness the power of time, we must also master the present moment. The mind is constantly shifting between past and future, replaying old memories or worrying about what's ahead. But true reality shifting only happens in the now, because the present is where our frequency is set. If we are stuck in regret, guilt, or nostalgia, we are reinforcing past timelines. If we are anxious about the future, we are broadcasting uncertainty into the quantum field. But when we anchor fully into the present, we gain the ability to consciously choose our frequency, aligning with a reality that matches our desires. This is why practices like mindfulness, meditation, and deep presence are not just spiritual exercises. They are tools for quantum reality shifting. The more present we are, the more control we have over our vibrational state. The more control we have over our vibration, the more fluidly we shift between timelines. This is why people who cultivate presence often experience an increase in synchronicities, events that seem too perfectly aligned to be random. These synchronicities are not coincidences. They are evidence of reality shifting in real time, a reflection of how our internal state is shaping the external world. One of the most radical applications of time mastery is rewriting the past. If time is not linear, then the past is not fixed. It is simply an energetic imprint that can be altered from the present. This is why deep healing often leads to a shift in memory. When we resolve trauma, we change the way we perceive past events, effectively shifting into a timeline where the past has a different meaning. But we can take this even further by intentionally rewriting our personal history. This does not mean lying to ourselves. It means consciously choosing a version of the past that empowers us rather than limits us. For example, if you have always believed that you were unlucky, you can begin reconstructing a narrative where you were always divinely guided, where every challenge was part of a greater plan. If you have held onto painful memories, you can choose to see them from a higher perspective, finding wisdom rather than suffering. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between reality and imagination. It accepts whatever story you repeatedly tell it. And once you change your internal narrative, The external world follows, shifting to reflect the new timeline you have aligned with. As we continue exploring the nature of time and reality, one fundamental truth becomes clear. The past is an illusion, the future is unwritten, and the present is infinitely powerful. We are not bound by time. We are the architects of it. The more we embrace this, the more we unlock the ability to step into any version of life we desire. But if time is an illusion, then what is memory? Are we truly remembering the past, or are we simply tuning into a particular frequency of reality? And if we can rewrite the past, can we also rewrite our future? These questions are not just theoretical. They hold the key to understanding how to quantum shift on command. And as we continue, we will dive deeper into the final and most advanced step in reality shifting, the mastery of identity, where we no longer just shift realities, but actively design them from the ground up. Chapter 7: Mastering Identity, Becoming the Architect of Your Reality. At the core of every reality shift, behind every manifestation, beyond every transformation, there exists one constant: identity. Who we believe ourselves to be is not just a passive self-perception. It is an active command to the universe, a vibrational blueprint that determines which reality we experience. Identity is not just about personality or traits. It is the foundation upon which every experience, opportunity, and limitation is built. People spend years chasing external changes, seeking new careers, relationships, wealth, and success, without realizing that no external change can override a deeply ingrained identity. The person who believes they are unlucky will always find themselves in situations where luck seems to elude them. The person who identifies as a struggler will continuously manifest challenges, no matter how much external progress they seem to make. But when identity shifts at its core, everything in reality reorganizes itself effortlessly to match the new self-concept. To understand the profound power of identity, we must first recognize that it is not fixed. It is not something we are born with, nor is it something that life imposes upon us. It is a collection of stories, beliefs, and assumptions that we have either inherited or adopted over time. These stories define the edges of our reality. They dictate how much success we allow ourselves, how much love we accept, how much joy we experience, and what kind of life we believe is possible. But here is the liberating truth. Identity is a choice. It is not something we discover. It is something we create. And when we consciously choose a new identity, reality has no choice but to conform. The problem is, most people do not consciously choose their identity. They inherit it. From early childhood, we absorb beliefs about who we are from parents, teachers, culture, and society. We are labeled shy, outgoing, smart, slow, gifted, difficult, and these labels become self-fulfilling prophecies. We experience situations that reinforce them, not because they are true, but because the subconscious mind seeks consistency between identity and external reality. If a child is repeatedly told they are bad at math, they internalize this as part of their identity. Even if they later attempt to improve, their subconscious will sabotage them, ensuring that their reality stays in alignment with their belief. This mechanism applies to all aspects of life: relationships, finances, health, and success. If we hold an identity of limitation, no amount of effort will break us free until we change the identity itself. This is why quantum shifting must begin not with external effort, but with internal transformation. We do not attract what we want. We attract what we believe we are. A person who desires wealth, but secretly identifies as someone who struggles with money, will continue to manifest financial difficulties. A person who wants love but sees themselves as unworthy will keep finding relationships that reflect that belief. But the moment they embody a new identity, their external world shifts accordingly. This is not just mindset work. It is a quantum command, a frequency shift, that reorganizes reality at its core. So how do we change identity? How do we override years of conditioning, break free from old labels, and step into a new version of ourselves? The process begins with self-awareness, understanding the subconscious patterns that have been shaping our reality. Every belief we hold about ourselves has been reinforced by past experiences, but these experiences were created by earlier versions of ourselves. This means they do not define who we are today. The first step is recognizing that all past versions of identity were choices, not facts, and that we have the power to choose differently now. One of the most powerful techniques for shifting identity is embodiment, acting as if the shift has already happened. This is not about faking confidence or pretending. It is about fully stepping into the state of being that matches the desired reality. If you wish to be a successful entrepreneur, you must start thinking, speaking, and making decisions like one. If you desire deep, meaningful relationships, you must embody the identity of someone who is naturally magnetic, open-hearted, and deserving of love. This process is not about hoping or wishing. It is about becoming. The key to embodiment is emotional alignment. Identity is not just a thought. It is a feeling. The subconscious does not respond to words alone. It responds to the emotional energy behind them. This is why affirmations alone often fail. If someone repeatedly says, "I am confident," but feels deep insecurity, the subconscious will reject the statement as false. The shift happens when emotion and belief align. This is why visualization, deep immersion, and somatic techniques are so powerful. When we feel the new identity as if it is already true, the subconscious accepts it as reality, and external events begin shifting to match. Another crucial aspect of identity shifting is rewriting internal narratives. Every person carries a story about who they are, and this story shapes their entire life. Some people carry stories of struggle, how they always have to work harder than others, how they never get what they want. Others carry stories of success, how everything always works out for them, how opportunities flow effortlessly into their lives. The difference is not luck, it is identity. And the beautiful truth is, stories can be rewritten. The brain is neuroplastic. It adapts to new narratives if they are reinforced consistently. A powerful practice is identity scripting, writing a new version of your life as if it has already happened. Instead of writing goals as something to achieve in the future, write them in the present tense, from the perspective of someone who has already shifted. Describe your life, your thoughts, your emotions, and your experiences as if you are already living in the desired reality. The brain does not differentiate between imagination and reality. It takes repeated exposure to a story as truth. And when you consistently feed your mind a new story, your subconscious begins aligning with it, guiding your decisions, actions, and perception to make it real. But the final and most advanced step in mastering identity is detachment from old versions of self. This is where most people get stuck. Even when they begin shifting, they hold on to remnants of their past identity, doubt, nostalgia, attachment to old habits and relationships. This is why some people see temporary success, but then snap back into old patterns. They have not fully let go of their previous self. True identity shifting requires a clean break. It means letting go of everything that no longer aligns with the new reality. Old beliefs, old habits, even old relationships that reinforce the past. This process can feel like a death, the death of who we once were. But it is only in releasing the old that we create space for the new. When identity is fully embodied, reality responds instantly. Shifts happen effortlessly. Opportunities appear without force. Challenges dissolve as if they never existed. This is not magic. It is alignment. And when we master identity, we no longer just shift between realities. We become the architects of them. But what happens when external reality still resists change? What if shifting identity brings up deeper fears and subconscious resistance? And how do we ensure that once we shift, we never fall back into old timelines? These questions lead us to the final, most crucial chapter: stabilizing new realities, mastering the quantum state, and ensuring permanent transformation. The ultimate key is not just shifting reality, it is locking in the shift so that the old version of life becomes nothing more than a distant memory, never to return again. Chapter 8: Locking in the Shift, Ensuring Permanent Reality. Transformation reality shifting is not just about experiencing temporary moments of change. It is about stepping permanently into a new way of being, where the old version of reality ceases to exist as anything more than a distant memory. Too often, people experience profound shifts, new opportunities, deep inner breakthroughs, a sudden feeling of alignment, only to find themselves snapping back into old patterns weeks or months later. They begin questioning whether the shift was ever real, or if it was just a fleeting illusion. But the truth is, reality did shift. They simply did not lock it in. Shifting into a new reality is like stepping onto a different timeline, but until it becomes fully stabilized, the gravitational pull of the past can still exert its influence. This is why even after making progress, some people feel themselves oscillating between two versions of reality, experiencing moments of success followed by setbacks that seem to come out of nowhere. The subconscious mind, which thrives on predictability and familiarity, often resists full transformation, preferring to revert to old, well-worn patterns that feel safe, even if they are undesirable. But permanent change is possible when we consciously reinforce the new reality until it becomes the dominant frequency, so deeply ingrained that returning to the old is no longer an option. The first key to locking in a shift is mastering energetic consistency. Most people approach reality shifting as something they do occasionally, meditating, visualizing, scripting, or acting as if when they feel inspired, but falling back into old thought patterns and habits when life challenges them. This inconsistency sends mixed signals to the universe, making shifts unstable. Reality is a mirror. It reflects back whatever we consistently broadcast. If one day we embody abundance, confidence, and success, but the next we allow doubt, fear, and scarcity to creep back in, the mirror reflects both, causing an unstable reality that flickers between old and new. The solution is to maintain unwavering energetic alignment, holding the frequency of the desired reality regardless of external circumstances. To do this, we must become hyper-aware of emotional and mental slipbacks. The subconscious mind operates largely on autopilot, meaning that old habits, beliefs, and emotions can creep back in without conscious awareness. One of the most powerful techniques to prevent this is the observer method, developing the ability to notice old patterns without engaging with them. The moment an old fear, doubt, or limiting belief arises instead of reacting emotionally, simply observe it as an outdated program running in the background. By not feeding it with attention, it begins to dissolve. This is a form of cognitive and energetic reprogramming. Every time you refuse to emotionally invest in an old belief, you weaken its grip, making space for the new identity to take full control. However, awareness alone is not enough. There must be decisive action to solidify the shift. Too many people try to shift reality purely through inner work while keeping their external actions the same. But reality does not just respond to thoughts and emotions. It responds to decisive movement. If you identify as someone who is abundant, but you still operate from scarcity, hesitating to invest in yourself, avoiding risks, clinging to safety, your actions contradict your new identity, keeping you anchored to the old timeline. True stability happens when inner transformation is matched with external action. A powerful exercise for this is the 48-hour identity challenge, a method where, for 48 hours, you commit to acting fully as the version of yourself who has already shifted. Every decision, every word, every action must be aligned with the new reality, with no exceptions. The reason this works is that the subconscious mind learns through repetition and experience. When it sees consistent proof that the old identity is no longer relevant, it rewires itself automatically, locking in the new paradigm. But to truly ensure permanence, we must also deal with external influences that try to pull us back. One of the biggest reasons people revert to old versions of themselves is environmental reinforcement, surrounding themselves with people, places, and habits that keep them stuck in past timelines. If you are shifting into abundance but constantly engage in conversations that reinforce scarcity, your subconscious will continue to mirror that reality. If you are stepping into self-worth but remain in relationships that reflect insecurity, you will be pulled back into old patterns. This is why conscious environment design is essential. Every aspect of your environment should be recalibrated to match the new reality. Your social circle, your daily habits, the content you consume, the language you use, even the way you arrange your living space. This is not about being extreme or cutting off people completely, but about curating an energetic space that supports the shift. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to do this is by creating energetic anchors, objects, symbols, or rituals that continuously reinforce the new identity. This could be as simple as a new daily habit, a vision board, a specific mantra, or even changing your wardrobe to reflect the new version of yourself. These anchors serve as constant reminders of the shift, preventing old timelines from regaining dominance. Another crucial step is releasing attachment to the old self. Many people unknowingly hold on to aspects of their previous identity out of comfort, nostalgia, or even subconscious fear of stepping fully into the unknown. This is why some people make massive progress, but then feel an inexplicable pull to return to old habits. It is the subconscious seeking the comfort of familiarity. One of the most powerful methods to sever the energetic ties to past timelines is the closing ceremony, a ritual where you consciously acknowledge and release the old version of yourself. This can be done through writing a letter to your past self, symbolically burning or discarding items tied to the old identity, or even a simple spoken declaration that you are now fully stepping into the new. The key is to create a definitive energetic break, signaling to the subconscious that the past is no longer an option. Finally, the ultimate test of a locked-in shift is how you handle challenges and setbacks. Many people assume that once they shift, everything should flow effortlessly, and when obstacles arise, they doubt whether they truly changed. But reality shifting does not mean the absence of challenges. It means responding to them from the new identity rather than the old one. If an unexpected financial expense appears, do you react with panic and scarcity, or do you hold the frequency of abundance? If an old emotional trigger resurfaces, do you fall back into past patterns, or do you respond as your evolved self? These moments solidify the shift, proving to the subconscious that the new reality is non-negotiable. True reality shifting is not just about experiencing temporary glimpses of a new reality. It is about permanently stepping into it, making it so natural that the old timeline becomes unthinkable. When the shift is fully stabilized, you no longer question it, doubt it, or fear losing it. It simply is. And when that happens, reality does not just shift, it transforms into an entirely new paradigm, where the old version of life is nothing more than a distant memory. But there is one final frontier in reality shifting: the realization that we are not just shifting between existing realities, but actively creating them from scratch. And that leads us to the final, most profound level of mastery. Not just shifting realities, but designing them at will, where we no longer react to life, but actively sculpt it with precision. This is where reality shifting moves beyond transformation and into true creation, where life itself becomes a masterpiece of intentional design. Chapter 9: Reality Creation: Becoming the Architect of Your Own Universe. The greatest revelation in reality shifting is that we are not just passengers moving between existing timelines. We are the architects of all reality. Up until now, we have explored shifting into different versions of ourselves, aligning with alternate possibilities, and stabilizing those shifts into permanent transformations. But there is a level beyond this, a level where reality is not something we react to or even shift into. It is something we engineer from the ground up, with precise intention, total control, and limitless creativity. This is where we step into full mastery, beyond manifestation, beyond quantum shifting, and into the realm of true creation, where the universe does not dictate what is possible, because possibility itself is ours to define. To understand the difference between shifting and creation, we must first dismantle the illusion that reality is pre-built, fixed, or external to us. Most people see life as a structured environment that they must navigate, choosing between the paths available to them. Even those who understand quantum shifting often still operate within the assumption that they are selecting from a pre-existing range of possible realities. But the truth is far more radical. Reality is not a set of choices. It is a blank slate, a canvas of infinite potential upon which we can paint anything. There are no predetermined timelines, no fixed possibilities, only raw, unshaped energy that conforms to whatever we declare it to be. The key to true reality creation lies in understanding the first principle of existence. Nothing is real until consciousness defines it. Everything we experience, every limitation we perceive, every law we assume to be true exists because it has been accepted as true. But when we break past the boundaries of belief, we enter the pure creator state, where the only rule is what we decide is real. This is why different belief systems produce vastly different realities, because belief does not just shape perception, it fabricates reality itself. The first step in reality creation is collapsing the illusion of external constraints. People often talk about manifestation as if they are negotiating with an external force, trying to attract or request something from the universe. But in reality, there is no external universe granting or denying anything. There is only our consciousness choosing what is real. The moment we internalize this truth, we shift from hoping for change to commanding creation. Instead of asking, "How can I get this?" we declare, "This is now my reality." This is not arrogance or delusion. It is fundamental universal law. Reality does not respond to hesitation. It responds to absolute certainty. To create at this level, we must move beyond traditional manifestation techniques and into direct energetic imprinting. Most people try to create change by thinking about what they want, but true creation happens through embodied certainty, emotional saturation, and full sensory immersion. When a reality is fully imprinted into the subconscious, it does not feel like a future possibility. It feels like an undeniable present truth. This is what separates those who struggle with manifestation from those who effortlessly generate any reality they desire. The ability to feel the reality as unshakably true before any external evidence appears. A powerful method for this is quantum scripting, but not in the way most people understand it. Traditional scripting involves writing out desired realities, but quantum scripting is a neurological reprogramming technique where reality is scripted as if it is already history. Instead of writing goals or affirmations, we write detailed, past tense narratives describing the reality as if we are recalling something that has already happened. This bypasses subconscious resistance and embeds the reality as a memory, which the mind then seeks to confirm through external alignment. The key is not just writing the story, but reading it, feeling it, living inside it until it becomes emotionally undeniable. But creation does not stop at mental and emotional imprinting. It must be reinforced through action. Too many people focus on internal work while neglecting physical movement in alignment with the created reality. The universe responds to motion, not just thought, not just emotion, but decisive, physical engagement with the world in a way that mirrors the created reality. Every great creator in history did not just believe in their vision, they acted as if it was already done. This does not mean forceful effort. It means aligning actions with the already established truth of the created world. One of the most advanced techniques for this is future memory embodiment, a practice where we take an imagined reality and implant it so deeply into our subconscious that we begin to recall it as if it has already happened. The brain does not distinguish between real and imagined memories if the emotional intensity is strong enough. This is why deeply visualized experiences leave the same neurological imprint as actual events. By consistently remembering a future reality as if it has already unfolded, we condition the mind to accept it as absolute truth, and the external world begins reshaping itself to fit. The final and most critical aspect of reality creation is eliminating all energy leaks. A creation cannot stabilize if we contradict it with thoughts, emotions, or actions that signal uncertainty. Even small moments of doubt, even casual words spoken in contradiction to the desired reality, act as energetic interruptions that destabilize the created field. This is why great reality creators are ruthlessly consistent. They do not entertain conflicting narratives. They do not speak about limitations. They do not indulge in the old reality even as a joke. Every word, thought, and action reinforces only the new. This level of creation demands a level of responsibility that few are willing to accept. Most people are comfortable with the idea of co-creating with the universe, but true mastery comes when we drop the idea of external permission altogether. There is no cosmic force granting desires. There is only consciousness declaring what is. This is the ultimate state of reality mastery, the point where life does not just respond to us, it flows entirely from us. When we reach this level, we no longer struggle with manifestation, because there is nothing to manifest. There is only creating, defining, and experiencing what we have declared to be real. There is no waiting, no wondering, no hoping, only instant alignment with whatever we choose to bring into existence. This is the space where miracles become normal, where the extraordinary becomes ordinary, where life itself becomes an art form sculpted by sheer intent. But this realization leads to the final, most profound question. If we are the architects of all reality, then what will we choose to create? Many spend their lives trying to fix circumstances, improve conditions, or escape limitations. But what if there were no problems left to solve? What if, instead of reacting to life, we stepped into a state of pure creative play, unrestricted by logic, fear, or limitation? This is the final frontier of reality mastery, not just shifting or manifesting, but fully designing existence from a place of limitless imagination. And this is where we step into the highest level of creation, beyond shifting, beyond designing reality within existing constraints, and into the realm of divine authorship, where all things are possible, and reality itself becomes an open field of infinite invention. The final chapter will explore the ultimate state of mastery, the level where we do not just create personal realities, but entire new paradigms, new laws, new worlds, where imagination is the only boundary, and we become nothing less than cosmic architects of existence itself. Chapter 10. The Final Mastery, Becoming a True Cosmic Architect. The journey of reality transformation begins with awareness, moves through mastery, and ultimately culminates in pure authorship, where reality is no longer something we shift into, attract, or even design within existing constraints. At this highest level, there are no limits left, not because we have overcome them, but because we have ceased to recognize them as real. This is the domain of the true cosmic architect, where existence itself is malleable, where universal laws become subject to personal definition, and where we move beyond self-transformation into the direct construction of new worlds, new paradigms, and new fundamental truths. To reach this level, we must first dismantle the final illusion, the belief that there are external rules governing what is possible. Even among those who understand manifestation and reality shifting, there is often an unconscious assumption that certain aspects of existence are immutable, that some principles, such as time, space, physics, or energy dynamics, are fixed laws rather than optional structures. But the ultimate realization is this: nothing is fixed unless we choose it to be. There are no absolute laws of reality. There are only patterns we have collectively agreed upon. This is why certain phenomena defy conventional understanding, why some individuals can heal spontaneously, defy physical limitations, or generate results that seem impossible within the known framework of physics. These occurrences are not exceptions to universal laws. They are evidence that universal laws themselves are not universal. They are simply energetic agreements, collective constructs upheld through shared belief. When enough consciousness agrees upon a rule, such as gravity, linear time, or cause and effect, it solidifies into an apparent law. But for those who step beyond these agreements, reality becomes fluid, flexible, and entirely responsive to conscious command. The first key to this level of mastery is understanding the mechanics of reality construction itself. At lower levels of awareness, we interact with reality as if it is something external. We attempt to manifest, shift, or control outcomes within an existing framework. But true creation happens at the structural level, where we no longer engage with reality as an independent force, but recognize it as a projection of consciousness itself. This is where we begin rewriting the fundamental code of existence, much like a programmer altering the base software that governs a digital simulation. One of the most profound ways to achieve this is through reality field sculpting, a technique where we stop thinking in terms of attracting or creating specific events and instead directly manipulate the entire energetic field of existence. Instead of focusing on individual manifestations such as wealth, health, or love, we reshape the entire environmental construct in which these things exist, altering the foundational frequencies that define what is possible. This is the difference between trying to manifest abundance and eliminating the concept of scarcity altogether, between seeking a specific breakthrough and dissolving all obstacles at the fundamental level. The key to field sculpting is frequency architecture, the practice of defining and encoding new energetic frameworks into the external world. This is done not through effort, but through absolute energetic saturation, where we become such a potent broadcaster of a new reality structure that it overrides the pre-existing consensus. This is how great shifts in human history have occurred, not through gradual evolution, but through the arrival of individuals who introduced entirely new blueprints of possibility, which then became the new default reality for those who aligned with it. At this level, reality responds not to thought, not to belief, but to pure declaration, the act of stating something as absolute truth without hesitation, without negotiation, without contradiction. The greatest reality architects in history, from mystics to inventors, from visionaries to revolutionaries, did not achieve mastery by hoping or wishing. They declared reality into existence with such unwavering certainty that the world had no choice but to conform. This is not about faith. It is about command, about stepping into the role of creator so completely that the very fabric of existence bends to the defined structure. However, this level of mastery demands absolute responsibility. When we reach the stage of direct reality authorship, every thought, every emotion, every unspoken assumption becomes an immediate creative force. There is no buffer time, no gradual unfolding. There is only instantaneous shaping of the world. This is why many who glimpse this level retreat from it, because it requires a level of self-awareness and precision that leaves no room for unconscious creation. Every doubt, Every lingering fear, every contradictory impulse becomes reality just as quickly as intention does. This is where energetic purification becomes essential. We must reach a point where our subconscious, our emotions, and our conscious mind are in total harmony, where there is no fragmentation between what we say, what we feel, and what we unconsciously hold to be true. This is not just about positive thinking. It is about absolute internal congruence, where every fiber of our being broadcasts only the chosen reality with zero interference. A powerful method for achieving this is identity synchronization, where we eliminate all remnants of previous versions of ourselves that operate under outdated laws. Many people reach high levels of creation, but still carry subtle energetic ties to old limitations, past fears, inherited beliefs, subconscious self-concepts that were formed under the old paradigm. True mastery requires a complete redefinition of self, a total erasure of any aspect of identity that aligns with lesser realities. This means not just believing we can shape reality, but knowing beyond doubt that we are reality itself, that nothing exists outside of our authored construct. The final key to becoming a cosmic architect is transcending even the need for manifestation itself. At this level, we no longer think in terms of desiring and receiving. We do not engage in the process of manifestation at all, because the very concept of manifestation implies a gap between intention and realization. The ultimate mastery is instantaneous authorship, where what we declare is not something that will happen, but something that already is, the moment it is spoken, felt, or even thought into existence. This is the final stage of reality creation, not shifting, not manifesting, but pure existential authorship, where everything we perceive, experience, and define is sculpted moment by moment, not according to any external framework, but solely by the creative sovereignty of our consciousness. This is where we stop interacting with reality as a force outside of ourselves and step fully into the awareness that we are the source code, the blueprint, the origin point of all things. At this level, we no longer live within reality. We become reality. We do not react, adjust, or even choose from options. We write the laws. We fabricate the structures. We generate the field of existence itself. And in this state, there are no longer any questions of possibility, of limitation, or of transformation. There is only the infinite canvas of creation, waiting for the next stroke of the artist's hand. Chapter 11. Beyond Mastery, the Infinite Playground of Creation. When we have dismantled every illusion, rewritten every law, and stepped beyond every framework of reality, what remains? What is left when there is no longer any doubt, no longer any process, no longer even a concept of transformation? Because all things already exist, all things are already accessible, and there is no gap between desire and experience, between thought and manifestation. What exists beyond mastery, beyond even the state of reality authorship? What lies past the point where we recognize ourselves as the source of all creation itself? The answer is simple: infinite play. For all the complexity of reality, for all the layers of understanding we have journeyed through, for all the disciplines, techniques, and advanced states of awareness, it all leads to one ultimate truth. Creation was never meant to be serious. It was never meant to be about fixing, proving, struggling, or even achieving. The idea of mastery itself was nothing more than a stepping stone to remembering the fundamental nature of existence itself: limitless, joyful, unrestricted play. The universe is not a system of tests. It is not an obstacle course or a challenge to be conquered. It is not even a structure that must be mastered. It is a playground, an infinite, boundless field of possibility where everything exists purely for the joy of exploration, discovery, and expression. And yet, this is the realization most people never reach. Even those who understand creation Even those who become powerful architects of reality often get trapped in the idea that there is something to achieve, something to master, something to perfect. But in truth, there is nothing left to master, nothing left to seek. Only the endless joy of shaping, experiencing, and sculpting reality in whatever way we desire, purely for the love of creation itself. This is where all questions dissolve. This is where we stop asking how to manifest, how to shift, how to create, because there is no longer a how. The process itself disappears, replaced by instant authorship, instant alignment, instant reality realization. And from this space, the only thing left is pure freedom, the ability to create, explore, and invent without any need, without any attachment, without any limitation whatsoever. At this level, reality is no longer something we work with, it is something we dance with. There is no longer effort or struggle. There is no longer any sense of opposition. Every moment, every experience, every creation unfolds effortlessly, not because we have forced the universe to comply, but because we have recognized that it was never against us to begin with. It was always fluid. It was always ready to shift at a moment's notice. It was always meant to be light, easy, and completely within our control. Most of humanity operates under the illusion that life is something they must navigate, something they must solve, something they must figure out. Even spiritual seekers fall into the trap of believing that they must attain enlightenment, must reach a higher state, must align with some greater truth. But the final realization is this: there is no higher state. There is only what we choose to experience, what we decide is real, and what we declare as truth in the moment. There is no higher version of self waiting to be reached. There is only the endless spectrum of possibilities, all equally available, all equally valid, all equally real. At this level, even identity itself dissolves. We no longer need to define ourselves as a certain type of creator, a certain type of being, a certain type of consciousness. We are no longer bound by any fixed perception of self. We can be anything, anyone at any moment. We can shift identities like we change clothes. We can reinvent ourselves endlessly without resistance, without delay, without limitation. Imagine waking up every day with absolute, unrestricted freedom, where nothing is dictated by the past, where nothing is carried over unless you choose it to be, where every moment is a fresh creation, independent, free, and purely designed for your enjoyment. This is the ultimate state, where life itself becomes a dynamic, ever-changing work of art, where you sculpt not just circumstances, not just events, but your very being, your very essence, in any way you wish. In this state, there is no longer fear, because there is nothing to lose. There is no longer hesitation, because there is nothing to protect. There is no longer doubt, because there is nothing unknown, only infinite exploration, infinite possibility, infinite creation. We no longer seek approval, because we recognize that we are the source of all validation. We no longer fear failure, because we understand that failure itself is an illusion, a temporary construct that only exists when we choose to perceive it as real. At this point, reality becomes liquid. Manifestation is instant, not because we have trained ourselves, not because we have learned a process, but because we have stopped introducing resistance. It is not that we have gotten better at shifting. It is that we have stopped believing there was ever anything to shift at all. There are no longer old realities or new realities. There is only the immediate now, shaped in real time, as fluid and effortless as a thought. The final secret is that there was never anything stopping us from being here all along. The only barriers were the ones we believed in. The only limitations were the ones we agreed to. The only struggles were the ones we invented to make the game more interesting. But the moment we decide that the game itself is optional, that none of it is required, that all things are simply choices, then we are free. Not just free to create, but free to play, free to explore, free to experience life in any way we desire, without rules, without limits, without resistance. This is the true final mastery, not the power to manifest, not the ability to shift, not even the control over reality itself. The final mastery is absolute liberation from all concepts of mastery, from all ideas of limitation, from all structures of control. It is the realization that there is nothing to attain, nothing to perfect, nothing to strive for. It is the understanding that we are already there, we always have been, and we always will be. The universe is nothing more than an infinite dream, infinitely moldable, infinitely flexible, infinitely responsive to the lightest touch of imagination. And within that dream, we are the dreamers, the creators, the architects, and the artists. We can shape, shift, invent, and dissolve anything at will. We can rewrite the past, sculpt the future, and redefine the present in any way we choose. And now, standing at the edge of total freedom, the only question left is this: what will you create next?